happy to see you all here for our last keynote of this Global Education Extravaganza. I know that we're all really tired, but we have the perfect ending session to kind of wrap up this extraordinary experience. And I am so excited to bring to you a slew of people who I think will inspire you even more. We want to thank our sponsors, the Institute for Humane Education, the Global Accelerator, Global Learning Accelerator, My Hero Project, Fulbright Teacher Exchanges, NEA Foundation, and I know I'm forgetting someone, Digital Promise, it is, for making this event happen. And I also want to take a time to thank all the volunteers who've been part of this, who've jumped in with both feet, and Cindy Lane and B. Lederman, who've been and Julene Reed, who have been my partners in putting this on. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Marilyn Turkovich, who will, from the Charter for Compassion, who you all need to know about the Charter. And the fun fact here is that Marilyn was the director of my student teaching program a long time ago. So it's fun to kind of come full circle with her. And she continues to inspire me 40 years later. So over to you, Marilyn and Scarlett and Arndt. Thank you so much for being here. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you, everyone. I hope we're going to be able to build that bridge from many of the sessions that you have attended over the last 2 days. I know I had a chance to come in and out, and I've been really excited by what I've seen. And as Lucy said, I actually was the director of our student teaching program. She didn't have to mention how many years ago it was. But nonetheless, I've asked two people who are great collaborators and colleagues of mine and who are great partners to the Charter for Compassion to join me in this final session for the GLOW conference. And so I'm going to ask each of them, and there's only two of them really, to introduce themselves. So Scarlett, why don't you say a few words before we get started?
Yeah, thank you so much, Marilyn. And hello, everyone. Thank you so much for staying to the bitter end. This is an incredible conference, and I am so honored to be here. My name is Scarlett Lewis. I'm the founder of the Choose Love movement. I founded this organization 10 years ago following the Sandy Hook tragedy, where my 6-year-old son, Jesse McCord Lewis, was murdered in his first grade classroom. And I'm going to show a little intro video a little bit later, but I really wanted to take a different route in being part of the solution. Obviously, I knew that that was 100% preventable. And I knew that moving through the education field was a way to do that. And so that is why I'm here today.
Great. And the next person is Arndt. And Arndt has been with the Charter now for 1.5 years, and we've been doing all kinds of pilot programs. And we hope that many of you will join us in following through with these programs, because I think that they are just so involving and so informative, and will really link to a lot of what you've been experiencing through this conference. So Arndt?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's such a gift to be here with both of you and be at the conference, Lucy's conference, right here with every one of you. The programs, the interactive programs that Marilyn describes, they started really 20 years ago. Was a creative response to September 11 and kind of a quest of how do we create people-to-people diplomacy in the following years. So that's where I learned my transformative learning program practices. And from that came the awareness, oh, I'm serving a very privileged group of students, beautiful people studying abroad in Spain, mainly US students. But how do I bring it to campuses? How do I make it more inclusive? That's where 7 years of filmmaking came from, intercultural film, feature documentaries came from. And the last 6 years, I was sitting with how do we translate that, use film, use transformative learning in order to create engaging dialogue programs that are deeply personal and scalable. So that's the last few years. Back to you, Marilyn.
Okay, great. You know, there's a lot of information that I think we're going to exchange with you today. And, you know, I don't want it to be like a fire hose. And so what we've done is set up a page on the Charter for Compassion website. And Arne is going to put the URL in the chat so that you can pick up on that, go directly to the page on the website. You'll see some of the background information of what we really want to exchange with you. And then also there's a second box when you enter the page that talks about compassionate action ideas and items. So, you know, take advantage of that. And then there are two more boxes, one that explains in more depth and links to Scarlett's work, and another to Arne's work. And so we're hoping that you'll also be able to continue the conversation with us. And, you know, we're here to say that anything that you ask us, we are going to be committed to respond to you. But, you know, so if it doesn't appear today in the chat, then please go to the website. And when you're there, take a look at the charter. So Arne, I think we're going to go through the content, the issues that we think that this whole presentation is all about. You know, what is it that we need to do in order to prepare for right now, participating actively and realistically in the present, and especially what is it that we need to look to for the future. So we'll go to the next slide and begin the process of looking at what are those skill areas that really need to be developed as we really deal with the learning process and really helping our students and ourselves to become lifelong learners. And I'm not going to talk about each one of these individually because, you know, if you've had a chance to participate in some of the programs already on the GLOW conference, a lot of these have actually been addressed. And I want to make on that second line, you see emotional intelligence, and I should have said multiple intelligences, because we know that there are at least at this point 8, 9 different kinds of intelligence that are so important to our individual development. And so I think that I just wanted to make that and underline that. The other thing is that global awareness. This is so very important, because if we're getting into global awareness, we're inviting ourselves and others to really become global citizens. But in order for that to happen, we have to really begin to understand what is it about our own understanding of ourselves and our perceptions, and how to come to a realization that our perceptions are really ours, and they might not be as shared universally as we might think. And so, you know, if you're going to go into global awareness, you really have to burst the bubble and really begin to look at the world through perspective consciousness. And the other thing is that you have to begin to understand the state of the planet, and in all of its very aspects, from economics, ecology, language, interdependency. And these are the kinds of things that allow for global awareness. The other thing is, what is cultural literacy? I mean, that's such a huge topic in the United States, and I dare say it probably is in many other places in the world. And, you know, we have to be aware and sensitive to a cultural communication The other thing is intercultural understanding in the way of interdependency. There's probably no action that happens in the world that doesn't affect others. I see Arn just switched that, giving me a little idea that, hey, I better get moving here. But
No
yeah.
intention in that. No.
But let's do go on to the next slide. And you know, some of this Art and also Scarlett are going to be talking about like resiliency and well-being, and you know, communication skills and career developments. And actually, I know that I put up some URLs that we might put in the chat
Yeah.
for some of these various areas where some of the charter partners are doing extraordinary work. And if you could put some of those into the chat, just so people could take advantage of going to these various websites and looking at them. Like, for example, I'll just give you one example. And that's like getting ready for the future and career changes. You know, I think experts are telling us that students that we are teaching will have 8 to 10 different careers in their lifetime, not a change of jobs within the same area that they begin their work in, but totally and complete different careers. And there's an organization out of the UK called 80,000 Hours, and that's a great group that you know just kind of looks ahead at what's happening with life skill development and careers in the future. And I think that you know other areas like ethical and moral values is really a very important area, as we well know. We all need to look at that really closely in how we deal with education. So these are some of the areas, and I'm going to invite Scarlett to begin to share the Choose Love environment and the movement, so that she could show you how Choose Love, and I hope I'm not taking any thunder from you, Scarlett, but it's now in 120 countries around the world, and there's a curriculum that is available to all of you. So Scarlett, do you want to move it forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And you just said it all. No, I'm just kidding. There's a lot more. Arndt, I didn't know when you wanted to show the video, if you want to show it now or later, maybe just as an introduction.
Sure, we can
Okay.
do that. And probably Lucy is so wonderful. She's here with the chat, but she probably needs to guide me, help me with the video. I'm Lucy, are you here? Because I'm sharing screen. I'm sharing the PowerPoint.
So are you, which video are you doing? The one that's a screen share, or?
That's the screen share. Yeah, that's
I can put it up for you. I'm going to add it to the stage. Is that the right one?
That's the one.
Okay. Make sure it's full screen and you're good.
This gives everybody a little idea, and then I will explain further after you see this. Love those moves. Awesome, Jess. It is August 24th, 2012. And Jess has brand new soccer shoes. So prior to 2012, I was a single mom with 2 boys. It was kind of an unremarkable life. It was such a great life. You know, I just wanted to be a mom, and I just wanted to be with my kids. Run the ball up to me. One day, you're a mom with 2 boys, one boy riding in a car seat in the back seat. So one morning I'm holding hands with my 6-year-old in his car seat, and the next thing that I know, there is no 6-year-old. He's been murdered. So I had come home for the first time and I was getting Jesse's clothes for the funeral. And I walked through the kitchen on my way out and I noticed these 3 words that Jesse had written on the kitchen chalkboard shortly before he died. He wrote, "Nurturing, healing, love." These words were a message of comfort for his family and friends and inspiration for the world. It's where we needed to turn. And I knew I'd be spending the rest of my life spreading this message. I didn't have to create a solution. There was one available, and it's called social emotional learning. And social emotional learning proactively prevents violence. I believe that Jesse is a part of this organization. I actually believe that he's leading it. And all I have to do is just be present. I live with a tremendous dichotomy in my life every single day. It's never out of my mind why I am leading a worldwide movement to choose love. It's because my 6-year-old son was shot in his first grade classroom. Alongside 19 of his classmates in one of the worst mass murders in U.S. history. I feel like I meet Jesse a lot in schools. I'll look into a child's eyes and I'll see Jesse looking back at me. And how blessed am I? And how grateful I am that my purpose is spreading a message of choosing love, and given to me by my 6-year-old son. Thank you so much for playing that. And I like to play that first because I think that it opens hearts. It makes it real what happened. It's different than me just talking about it when you see live videos of Jesse running around in my backyard and now he's not. And so as a mom, I took I took the road less traveled. I actually felt compassion for the shooter who had grown up in my community. I knew that he wasn't born a mass murderer. I knew that he was cultivated into what he became by lack of nurturing, healing, love, which is what Jesse wrote on the kitchen chalkboard, as well as lack of essential life skills. We are meant to actually grow through adversity and pain in our life. There's a concept called post-traumatic growth. And, I think today most people have never heard of that concept. We think of PTSD, but most of us actually experience post-traumatic growth. And so having this awareness helps take the fear away from difficult events in life. And we know that kids are going to feel pain. So I thought, wow, before we start anything else, we need to be able to love ourselves. We know that it's so fascinating. And this is what we teach in our free programming, by the way, which is pre-K through 12th grade. We have programming for homes and communities. I make it free because I know that this would have saved my son's life. We teach about how the brain works and how, there's a negative bias, and in our lives, we focus on the negative. The majority of our thoughts are negative and repetitive. And in fact, our fear center is faster at processing the data that comes in than our prefrontal cortex, where logic and reasoning reside. And this is fascinating stuff to me that I did not know, by the way, before Jesse died. And just knowing that kind of changes your life. And and makes you realize that you need to pause to thoughtfully respond. And by the way, we say you can thoughtfully respond with love in any situation, circumstance, or interaction, but really important that you love yourself, you feel good about yourself, so that you can have the courage to face the difficulty in your life, and the understanding that you can learn from it, you can grow through it, and you can actually be strengthened by it. And we do this by teaching social and emotional learning, as well as growth mindset, how the brain works. So some neuroscience in there, some character, post-traumatic growth. We do it all on a trauma-informed base. And this is really what I consider. And by the way, I didn't have these skills and tools. You can say, oh, well, parents teach this in the home. I loved my kids, but I was not socially and emotionally competent. I didn't learn it at home from my parents. I didn't learn it in school. These are not skills that you're born with. You actually have to learn them. I'm talking about how to have healthy relationships, how to identify, manage, and express your emotions, how to make responsible decisions, self-awareness, being aware of what you're feeling, being aware of how you're coming across to other people. All these things have to be taught. We're not born with these skills and tools. And then if you aren't taught them, I'm living proof you get to be an adult and you simply don't have them. And so we're seeing that play out a lot in the media and what we see going on in our world. And the simple truth is, we can teach these essential life skills to our kids, and then they can grow up knowing how to have relationships, how to manage their emotions, how to make responsible decisions. Basically what we call choosing love as a thoughtful response. And we do it through a powerful formula: courage plus gratitude plus forgiveness plus compassion in action equals choosing love. And we offer all of this at no cost on our website. And I really believe that this is the basis for a life, for a flourishing life, which is, of course, what we all want for ourselves and our kids, and to be able to get along in the world in the best way possible.
Great. Thanks, Scarlett. I think that you really helped underlie the themes that we ran through in the very beginning. And, I think the life skills for the future are all what you just talked about, and especially compassion being at the source of all of that. And one of the things at the charter that we try to do is to really vet programs so that we can share them on through our own website, but through our own events calendar. And we also really truly believe how necessary it is for people to really dialogue with one another and to collectively, through small groups, bring about social change. And that's the bridge to Arndt, because his work is really exactly that, bringing people together, in many cases youth, but also more seasoned people like ourselves. But the idea here is intergenerational conversation. So Arndt, I'm going to take it over to you now. Arndt, we can't hear you. Your mic is off.
Here we go. Thank you so much. And at the beginning, I really want to feel as well, or honor as well, Scarlett, for bringing your story here into this room. It's so moving to see your way of staying with the pain, your way of connecting in the midst of your grief to your values, and your way of transforming grief into healing action. It's really truly inspirational. And I also want to honor Marilyn in this moment. There's a need for the very personal stories, and there's also the need for your way of leading a global umbrella organization like the Charter for Compassion that connects 3,000 organizations. So needed in the midst of this painful time of so many painful separations. And for me, that was quite important at the beginning to speak honoring the two of you, because for me it relates to what's happening and what we need at this time skill-wise. On one side, we need the very personal, our stories and the authenticity of dealing with our own pain. And on the other side, we need also the strategic, the overarching, the architecture of goodness that we are creating and co-creating. And then it needs the events that Lucy is creating here, the Globe Virtual Conference, in order to bring us together and create a space for that. And another skill that Marilyn already referred to is, for me, that's what I want to bring into the middle is where do we create the spaces for deep connections and for building communities. Also, your story, Scarlett, really moves me. There's a saying when it comes to media and when it comes to news items, where it says, one death is a tragedy, and learning about one death is a tragedy. 1 million deaths becomes a statistic. So there is something really important around actually learning about the stories, learning about the background of another person, getting to know them. It's a direct pathway to compassion, as in the skill of paying attention, being close to another human being, learning the skill of deep listening, even if it's difficult to listen, staying with that pain and staying with that person, and then in process, deepening our understanding. And naturally, there will be emerging feelings of compassion and feelings of empathy. So it actually starts with very practical skills. Can we pay attention? Can we stop our own thoughts, train of thoughts? Can we be present for the other person? And also what you, Scarlett, mentioned earlier is post-traumatic growth. I feel it's such an important element at this time to learn from the field of trauma work. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk from trauma work at Boston University, he is often saying, he's inviting us and is often saying, at these difficult times, let us remember that 70% of us are growing from our adversities. But he then reminds us as well, it doesn't just happen by itself. There are two conditions that need to be met, two human needs need to be met. Number one is deep social connections. Number two is a sense of purpose. And how do we create those environments that our students can experience that? And how do we create the environments that not just the students, but also burned out teachers and ourselves, when we are leading civic organizations and we feel really the stretch and the push and the pull of these times, how do we create the spaces where we build community with each other and create the space for empathic dialogue and all the skills that we learn along the way in the process? And as shared before, I went for a few years into filmmaking, working there with New York Film Academy and National Geographic Education as partners, as some of our partners, but mainly doing it as independent intercultural films. And I want to bring also a little bit of media into the middle in order to bring also the student voices into the room. What skills are we learning in the process by connecting with each other in these programs we create? So I want to bring a 2-minute video into the middle. And again, dear Lucy, I think it's time to share.
Which one would you like? Aligning values, or a blue one, or a red one?
Right. I would say it's a blue one.
Okay, we'll go with blue. Here we go.
What I like about the Crossing Borders community the most, I think, is the feel of being heard without being judged. It's very freeing.
I like how we are able to have like such a diverse groups of people, and at the end of the day, I kind of feel like we can be very different, but we can be very similar.
I'm opening up to more perspectives now, and just to talk to people that have different views on different topics and just the world itself, you know.
The most important thing for me is definitely the connectedness and the sense of the meaningful conversations you have, and you encounter different perspectives, and it challenges you and it challenges the other person to think
especially now during COVID, to be able to like have intimate and authentic relationships from people all over the world. Just feels like a beautiful way to create a really global community.
Crossing Borders community, they are sincerely interested in just discussing things and helping you.
Share, these really profound stories from our own life, stories of overcoming, stories of facing mental health challenges, of life difficulties.
It's the power to experience emotions and have feelings for the other person, especially the feelings of love and compassion and empathy.
I'm really grateful to have been with you all and trust in the process. I know there's magic when we all share our stories.
And it also gives like a very forgiving place to practice dialogue skills, because we're not necessarily born with them, and I feel like it's forgiving. You can have your faux pas and make mistakes.
Crossing Borders community is a very safe environment, and that we are doing our best to try to support each other in this, and that is beautiful.
So I just want to say we are working, just to say as well, the bigger picture, who we are working with. One, absolutely delight to work with Marilyn and all the leaders within the Charter for Compassion, working with British Council, the DICE program, National Geographic Education I mentioned, Cisco Networking Academy, the largest classroom in the world with currently 3.3 million students. That's where we are starting to evolve and bring it out to colleges and universities. And our key partner, Purdue University, Silma, and our key partner, Purdue University, the Center for Intercultural Learning, Mentorship and Research, Purdue being voted one of the most innovative universities by 50 Fortune 50. I don't know the name. I can't remember the name. Last thing before I hand back over to Marilyn is to read one quote. Chuck Hopkins, UNESCO chair at York University, Canada, said, "In order to respond to global crises, we will need to transform education. I believe the Crossing Borders education, that's us, virtual peer method can make a significant contribution in that process. We will be delighted to work with you as well in the process." Back to you, Marilyn.
Okay, thanks, Arn. I don't know where we are with the slide deck, but maybe we can just get it back up now. And one of the things that I think we want to talk about, and you can see we've already certainly ventured into this lifelong learning and how we have to transform it. I have a great friend, David Corton, and he's been my mentor as well. He's written a lot of books, but the one that I think is the most important one is Change the Story and Change the Future. And I think that's what we have to do as we look forward to those future years that we're going to encounter. As you can tell, my dog now knows that there's some living creature outside that's coming to swallow us up. But I want to, just to make an invitation. So maybe we can advance the power deck here.
Where do you want me to go?
I'm not sure, because if you just move it forward, I'll say then, okay, keep going. Okay. I think that, one of the things, this is where we want to stop, because this is where we want to make a transition. And again, I have to tell you, we have so much stuff that we want to share with you. And I'm looking at the clock and we don't have very much time. But we have these practical tools that we want to share with you. And one is from the Charter for Compassion. And when you go to the page on the website that follows this conference, you'll have an invitation, a link that'll bring you right on our website to something called the Map of Co-Creators. And on the Map of Co-Creators, this is an opportunity for you to list your passion, your area of concern, an opportunity for you to say, I'd love to talk with other people. I'd like to collaborate with other people. I'd like to make a big difference with other people. We launched this just about 10 months ago. And, here you have a little idea of what it looks like. You get a pinpoint. You can go enlarge that map all the way down to your own street and find people in your present community that are, have an interest, perhaps the same kind of interest that you have. The different colors that you see there are the areas in which the Charter for Compassion works, in the arts and business and education, environment, social justice, health, and all of the regular kinds of areas that are part of a community. And so you pick an area of your major concern, major passion, and this we have experimented with for quite some time. We know that we can get a couple million people on this map. And you can see that we're doing well in some areas of the world, and in other areas we need a lot more people to come on, so that we can actually communicate with one another, not wonder who's doing something in this area of interest and concern, but actually there's a filter that allows you to bring things down to the lowest common denominator, so that you can actually have this opportunity to engage with other people directly. And so all of the instructions are on the map. By the way, our website, all you have to do, we have a wonderful little tool at the top, and you can switch it to over 40 different languages. Just click and the entire website will change into another language for you. So we invite you into that process. So I'm going to go back to Scarlett, because in this part of the presentation, what we're trying to do is to be very concrete. And so I'm going to ask Scarlett it looked like Arn was next on slide deck. So we can go with you, Arn, and then we'll just go with Scarlett after that.
No, let's go with Scarlett.
Okay. So Scarlett, you're up again. And your mic is off.
You did.
Sorry. Okay. It's like Groundhog Day for me. Anyway, that's an incredible resource, Marilyn. Really amazing. And I hope everybody that is listening joins. And so the Choose Love movement offers a tremendous amount of resources. We have just updated our website and learning management system, but you can check it out at chooselovemovement.org. And we have literally programming for every age and stage. And the amazing thing about this is that we use a universal language in the formula. So it really applies to everyone. We made it so that the educators that are teaching this and the parents, they can learn right alongside and practice with their kids. Because the thing about these skills, I think that they have been thought of as something that you teach from a book, a program, you put it away, and then you go on to the next subject. But in reality, when you're talking about essential life skills, like how to get along with someone, how to express your needs, these are things that we have to do every day. How to manage conflict. Think about this. I always say when I start to talk about the resources that we offer, you realize right away, oh, wait, these aren't just for kids. These are for big kids too. And so really, we have programming for a lifespan is what I call it, and comprehensive. And it really just we have standards in the beginning, so you know exactly what you're going to be learning, but it goes through, and it does use, for the older kids, the story of Sandy Hook and of moving through pain. There's a lot of focus on pain because there's a lot of pain in life. And I found that not many programs talked about it. In fact, not many people wanted to talk about it. It's a difficult subject and people are uncomfortable. But as we all know, we only grow outside of our comfort zone. So a lot of the lessons really kind of push the envelope on that. But we have everything that we teach is based on the formula, which I talked about before. So it's really courage and having, we all have the capacity for the courage that Jesse, my 6-year-old son, showed when he stood up to the shooter and he saved 9 of his first grade classmates' lives. And that's the courage to be the best version of ourselves, the courage to be present, as Arn said, even in the midst of conflict, to get into what we call the choice moment and to become curious if someone is not being kind to me, instead of reacting the way that my brain would have me react in self-defense, getting curious, pausing, getting curious about why the other person is behaving that way, and more specifically, what is their point of pain? Because we know when someone is not being kind, they certainly aren't feeling good. People that feel good are kind and don't want to cause harm. And this, is applicable for what most people call anti-bullying in the U.S., which really overall is not that successful. But this really goes into why that happens, and more from a compassionate standpoint, trying to understand the other person so you can thoughtfully respond with love. And that, of course, then enhances the relationship and doesn't escalate issues. So when you go onto our website, you'll see that there are lots of opportunities for newsletters. We have a daily dose of love that is a daily email that comes into your email box. It has an example of how schools, homes, and communities are choosing love throughout the world every single day. We have a picture, we have a video. People love this email because it gives them ideas on how they can incorporate Choose Love and the formula into their own lives. We're having events all the time, online and in person. We have communities that are choosing love. We have mayoral proclamations. So where everybody gets together and they celebrate, the schools, the parents, the community members. This is for everybody, and really meant to help unite us. Love unites. We know that anger and fear divides, and we have a personal power as human beings in our ability to choose from moment to moment how we thoughtfully respond to what's happening. And of course, we want to encourage everybody to thoughtfully respond with love. And I will just say, it's really important that we are able to see the light of humanity in each other. This is one of the top ways, by the way, to keep kids safe in schools and to safeguard their well-being and to proactively prevent mental illness and substance abuse, in addition to violence, is teaching these essential life skills. And from the words of an actual school shooter, which, some people that are listening don't understand that, but it is happening in our country, unfortunately, and other places. I was saying, gosh, the systems and processes that have to change, in one of my podcasts with him. And he said, it has nothing to do with systems and processes. It has everything to do with seeing the light of humanity in every single person. And I think that that's so important. And also giving love to those we feel deserve love the least. And so that's all about choosing love, being able to choose love as a thoughtful response in difficult situations. Lots of resources. I invite people to explore the website, but also to reach out to me. We can put my email in the box there. I don't know how to do it, but it's Scarlett with 2 T's at JessieLewisChooseLove.org. And I would love to get in touch with you and help you out.
Great. You know, one of the things, and then we'll move directly into Arn, and that'll probably bring us almost to the top of the hour. But I believe that the commonality between all of what you've been hearing today is that compassion is that safe space in the middle. That, you know, we can take sides, obviously, but in order to really begin to open dialogue and to appreciate common humanity, we have to find that space in the middle. The other thing is that Scarlett's program, Arn's program, and I hope the majority of everything that we do with the charter is based on neuroscience, that we want to help people, young people, students, educators, to really understand, you know, how is it that our brain works and how we are really, we're programmed. We are definitely programmed for kindness. And kindness is the action that comes from knowing about the skill of compassion. So with that, I'm going to turn it right over to Arn so that you can get in more depth with Crossing Borders.
Yeah, I want to just also in closing really see again, there is right here in the room, Marilyn leading the charter as an overarching architecture, a network. There's Scarlett really highlighting the charismatic leader here in the room, and also that we need in our world, and also the resources that so many organizations are providing, and Choose Love movement as well. And there's also Glow. Thank you, Lucy, for bringing us all together. And the other is this element of community building by practicing the art of empathic dialogue. And that's where I put a link into the chat where we are creating programs where we bring in small groups, teachers together, in very personal, teachers and parents together. At universities, we bring students together. So at Charter for Compassion, we bring leaders there together or members together, so from different civic organizations, so it can be targeted to the specific group. But that's what we are passionate about. As in we have the technology. That's the good news. The difficult news with it is very often it creates for us online fatigue, and very often it creates a form where we feel disconnected and more isolated, and we are living in an epidemic of isolation and feeling a sense of isolation and despair. So the way of us getting together is actually a form, exactly what Marilyn referred to, of unlocking those powers that are there in us. It reminds me often the natural world helps me a lot when we think of hydrogen, an odorless gas, oxygen, and odorless gas. The moment you bring them together, something emerges. There's H2O, there's water. It's not a gas anymore. There's an emergent elements that come together. When we do that in a good design, in a way that's interactive, that's caring, that's with compassion and with kindness for each other, something incredible, something magic actually emerges within us and around us, and we all have access to it. That's why we are all here. So back to you, Marilyn.
Thank you, Arn. And we are at the top, getting close to the top of the hour. So just a reminder, and maybe Arn, if you could slip in that resource again, the page that people can go to and continue, hopefully, this conversation. You know, it's always great if you can have a conversation, but, you know, I apologize because our presentation didn't allow for those open-ended questions, but we really want to communicate with you. And I put into the chat that on Thursday, Scarlett is coming to the charter once a month on Thursdays. We have an opportunity to really, for 90 minutes, have a dialogue with people who are doing extraordinary things in the field of education. So Scarlett is the person who will be joining us this Thursday. And so you're all invited. And if you can't make the time, just sign up anyway. We have a tradition at the Charter that we always honor people's interests. So we will send you the link for the video that's happened. So thank you all. And Lucy, since this is the last presentation for the GLOW conference, I'm wondering if you have a few words to say.
Oh my gosh, I don't know if I can say anything intelligent at this point because I'm so exhausted. But I am so grateful to all of you in this room and who are listening in the chat and who've helped with the conference and who, if you've engaged with the conference at this level, you understand what it's all about. It is not a perfect conference. It's not about perfection. It's not about polished everything. It's about sharing what we know and what we're passionate about and what we care about. And it's focused on global education and innovation, but that takes many forms, and people have different views of what that looks like. And I think that post pandemic, we need this stuff. Like, technology is not going away. We save money by not flying places. We save our planet by not flying places, and we need opportunities like this. So I'm glad and grateful for everyone that came. We had at least 1,100 people register. People have floated in and out, and people will come and watch the recording. So if you feel like your audience was a little paltry, that's okay, because people are going to come back and watch these things. And the other thing I will say on a practical standpoint, if you were a person that got affected by our outage this morning, which was really distressing, I'm going to leave the conference open for a little bit longer so that if you want to come in and re-record or do your session over, I also will follow up with an email if you recorded off in Zoom or something this morning instead of here, and we'll get your video up in the replay section. We're working hard to get the videos published. A bunch of them are already published, and you can start looking at them when you in your copious spare time. But let's keep this going, and let's I know that there are a lot of people that I've talked to this week who want to have some sort of community, collective, coalition, something, because we need to bring all this work to the surface in schools. We can't, keep worrying about learning loss and math scores. It's much more that doesn't matter if we don't have the social emotional piece in place for kids. So let's keep working together. Let's keep thinking about how we can be creative together to spread the word to more educators and organizations. Anyway, thank you everyone for coming and being so patient and kind and terrific with everyone that you've met this week. I just am blown away by everybody's professional generosity, and hopefully we'll see you again next year, if not sooner. We have a couple other events coming up our way that are not quite related, but stay tuned for more information. I'll follow up with an email after this.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone.
We appreciate your time, everyone. You've been great.